welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today. Make sure you stick around for that. But before we get to it, you know what it is. If you haven't already and you're here on YouTube, please click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell. Make sure you get connected to us so that you're made aware whenever new content drops on the channel. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, please open up your audio podcast platform, do a little search, type in the Format Podcast. We should come up. Go ahead and subscribe there. Make sure you give us that 5-star review. Make sure you share the channel with people that you know that want to hear a different voice on sports talk from what you would normally hear on a lot of the mainstream channels and mainstream sports media shows. Do all that. We'll rise in the algorithm, help us find more sports fans, help more sports fans find us. Now let's get right to it. Okay, so basketball is a 5-on-5 game, right? It's a team game. And when you're at your absolute best, the team is functioning, everyone knows their role, and everyone is participating in the way that they should according to their role, right? But at the same time, basketball, more than any other sport probably, is a game where one elite player can truly make a difference when inputted into a team. We've seen this with LeBron James at his previous stops. We've seen this with Michael Jordan making a difference on his teams, carrying them to a point, and then when they got sufficient talent around them, not loading up the team, but when they got sufficient talent around them, becoming absolutely unstoppable and unbeatable on the highest levels. We've seen it with Kevin Durant when he joined the Golden State Warriors, making them an absolute machine. So basketball, more than any other sport, is a game where you have the elite singular talent. They can make all the difference. And that's why when you have a super high level draft pick and you can get them, they can immediately make a difference, much more so than say the NFL or soccer or team sports like that, right? So anyway, Gilbert Arenas, as we know, has been saying a lot of crazy things over the last year, 2 years, right? Building up his platform, which is pretty successful in terms of his podcast voice and all of that. But he generally knows the game. But if you've been around this channel for a while, you know that I've been highly critical of him and some of the things that he said in the past, and you can go back and check other episodes of the show where I really took him to task for some things that he said that I thought were outlandish and utterly ridiculous. But as of late, it's really interesting. If you've been paying attention to some of the commentary he's made, it seems like he's really come back down to earth. I don't know if more people, a great deal of people possibly, have been really, going at him for a lot of the things that he was saying in the past, maybe just to get clickbait, or he just realized, okay, like now I can give some real true basketball analysis because some of the things I was saying before was just out of bounds. But anyway, Gilbert Arenas he's been making a lot of sense lately. And this one was interesting, right? So he was on DJ Vlad recently, and he was asked about LeBron James and his one-on-one skills and who would win in a one-on-one game between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. And Gilbert Arenas, well, we know what he said. And then that was followed up by who would win a one-on-one game, LeBron James and Larry Bird. And I was really surprised to hear the result of that question coming from Gilbert Arenas. So let's go ahead. We're going to play that now, and we'll come back and react to it. Check out that clip.
Jordan versus LeBron.
Jordan.
Okay. So you would say overall Jordan's the best player ever.
But see, that's not how you do it, right?
Nope.
Because you have one-on-one players, and then you have team basketball players, right? So,
okay.
Like Jokic, right? You put Jokic in a one-on-one scenario, right? He'll probably lose that, right? You pick, and this is why he probably went in the second round. You're going to try out. You're doing one-on-one workouts. You're doing one versus one. You're doing by yourself workouts. You don't look sexy. Your skill level, what you're great at, does not show here. Now I put 9 other players on your floor. Now your genius comes out. The game is different for different players. Jordan, Kobe, they're one-on-one juggernauts, right? So it's you can't compare him with LeBron. LeBron is not a one-on-one player. He's like Jokic. He's a team guy. He's a 5-on-5 type of player.
I see what you're saying.
Larry Bird would probably beat LeBron one-on-one.
Really? Larry Bird would beat LeBron
One-on-one?
James one-on-one.
Ooh. Because one-on-one, it takes away from everything LeBron has, right? His physical strength, his speed, right? and, you know, all that power he has going. Well, in one-on-one, you're talking about 1-2 dribbles. That's not his
Pointers and
that's not his game. That's Larry's whole game. LeBron needs to back up, and then I'm going to use all my physical attributes to come at you. So now if the game started at the 3-point line, now you're talking about a whole different. I mean, if you're talking about half court, if it started at the half court and we have as many dribbles as we want, then it changes. Then LeBron just excels to probably, you know, number one-on-one player of all time, but it's usually, you know, spots, 1 dribble, 2 dribble pull up, 2 dribble get to the rim. That's not his game.
So that was pretty interesting, right? Again, coming from Gilbert Arenas, I was really surprised at his commentary on the matter. Now, obviously, I guess not obviously, there are some people who, for whatever reason, believe that LeBron James would beat Michael Jordan in a game of one-on-one, and that's absolutely asinine. Number one, Michael Jordan is just simply too quick, right? He's simply too quick. The fact that he was such an elite defender, multiple time steals champion in the league, 9-time first team All-NBA defense, I think LeBron James would have a terrible time trying to deal with Michael Jordan offensively, right? And in a second, I'll get to why that is. Offensively, we know that despite the fact that LeBron James has scored the most points in NBA history, Michael Jordan is the greatest scorer of all time, as evidenced by his 10 straight scoring titles. So he also had a much varied offensive skill set, much more varied offensive skill set than LeBron James. He could shoot the mid-range. When he had it going, he could shoot the 3. Obviously, he could go into the post. He probably wouldn't attempt to go into the post on LeBron, but he was much quicker off the dribble, much more explosive in general. So I look at it this way. Offensively, he was just too quick. LeBron wouldn't be able to deal with that. His mid-range game, his, that stop and pop, his footwork, his ability to get the step throughs, and he just had a much deeper offensive toolkit than LeBron James. LeBron James is one of the greatest ever at attacking the basket in terms of going downhill, but he doesn't have the best handle, which is odd for someone who's been handling the ball so much for his entire career. And this is something I've talked about ad nauseum. His offensive toolkit is limited. He doesn't have a lot of great moves. His skill set moves wise is really weak for a guy who's been in the league for 20 years. He doesn't have that stop and pop mid-range. Now, he theoretically, outweighing Michael Jordan by 40 to 50 pounds, should be able to turn around, back Michael Jordan down, and score easily there. But LeBron James, for whatever reason, has not developed a reliable post game through 20 years in the league, despite, for the most part, having a size and strength advantage on just about everybody who would attempt to defend him. Odd, right? So I think if you know basketball, it's pretty simple to make the assertion that Michael Jordan would beat LeBron James in a game of one-on-one. So then you have the follow-up question. Who would win a game of one-on-one, Larry Bird or LeBron James? And this is where I thought it was so interesting, Gilbert Arenas' response, and his response, pretty much without thinking, was Larry Bird. Now, before I get into that breakdown right there, Larry Bird and LeBron James, what I want to point out is, and this is not my opinion, this has been put out there by people in the know, Michael Beasley used to routinely beat LeBron James in games of one-on-one when they were both teammates on the Miami Heat. They're about the same size, kind of the same strength, but Michael Beasley, I don't know if it's because he's left-handed, so that makes it kind of awkward for LeBron James to have attempted to defend him, but he would routinely beat LeBron James in games of one-on-one. And also, if you look throughout LeBron James's career, he had a lot of difficulty with scoring wings. Carmelo used to give him the business. Paul Pierce used to give him the business. Paul George used to give him the business. Kawhi Leonard used to give him the business. Like, he doesn't do well against those kind of guys. Interesting, isn't it? For somebody they say is the GOAT. Yeah, I know basketball is a team game, but this is a guy who is 5 times All-NBA first team defense, which I never believed. Whatever. But whenever you see him against equally talented guys offensively or physically, he can't deal with it. He never wants the defensive matchup other than maybe selected short stretches, like everyone loves to tout out, everyone loves to talk about in, I want to say 2012, when Derrick Rose was the youngest ever MVP in the league. he supposedly shut Derrick Rose down in the playoffs, which is utterly ridiculous. That's a lie. He didn't defend Derrick Rose until selected stretches in the fourth quarter when Derrick Rose was already exhausted. And so, you let LeBron James roam. He doesn't really have to play lockdown man on D. And then you put him against a guy who's 6'2", 6'3", he's 6'9", close to the end of the game. And then you say, oh, he locked him up. See, that's what we talk about when we talk about people kind of manipulating the information and being a little free with the narrative when it comes to LeBron. But anyway, LeBron is a guy that has a lot of difficulty dealing with elite wing players, and Larry Bird is a guy who was elite of the elite of the elite of the all-time wing players. I have him at the greatest small forward of all time. I have him as the number 4 basketball player of all time. A lot of people will probably disagree with that. Most people would say LeBron James is the greatest small forward of all time. Again, I disagree. Larry Bird and LeBron James, I thought it was so interesting that Gilbert Arenas, without thinking, said that Larry Bird would beat LeBron James in a game of 1, and I agree. And most people would say, well, Larry Bird wasn't athletic enough. But you need to go back and watch, because prior to Larry Bird hurting his back, I want to say either after the 85 or the 86 season, he was moderately athletic. Like, he could run with you on the break. He had some pretty decent dunks that he threw down. I mean, he was never going to be Dominique Wilkins because that just wasn't his game, but he was moderately athletic. So I think we make more of the he wasn't athletic thing than it actually was. The great Tommy Heinsohn, who called games for the Celtics for years, he had an interesting nickname that he gave Larry Bird, and he called him the master of the half inch. And the reason why he said that was Larry Bird's offensive game was so good that he only needed a half inch to get a shot off. Now, this isn't really hyperbole, because Larry Bird, being the key offensive weapon of those Boston Celtics championship teams, basically from 1979 until he retired in 92, always got to deal with the best defender on the opposing team. Whether Dennis Rodman was trying to deal with him, or whether it was the Boston Strangler, Andrew Toney, on those elite 76ers teams, or whether it was I want to say Michael Cooper with the Los Angeles Lakers, the Showtime Lakers, he would always get the opposing team's best perimeter defender, and he would routinely light guys up. Larry Bird was the type of dude, and you can just go look up the stories. He's going to tell you exactly what he's going to do on the floor, then he's going to do it to you. Larry Bird was the type of guy who, when he's lighting you up, he's going to run by the coach and yell, hey, coach, don't you have someone out here who can guard me? Or he'd yell, hey, coach, get somebody out here to guard me. There's nobody guarding me, that type of stuff. And so I think skill-wise, Larry Bird's ability, now he wasn't the greatest ball handler, he wasn't the greatest jumper, but his ability to get a shot off under very tight conditions, being a better shooter than LeBron, a better post player than LeBron, I think that once he got going, and he's a guy that can get hot real quick and just start hitting shot after shot, and he was deadly from the mid-range, right? I think he would give LeBron a lot of problems. And then the worst part is, if he starts talking to him, I don't know if LeBron is mentally tough enough to deal with that, right? LeBron is a guy who we've seen over the years get upset when guys start talking to him. And instead of him, for the most part, just going and busting the dude down, he's going to talk back to the dude, oh, why are you talking to me? Or, oh, you just talking stuff, you not hooping, or getting at the ref, oh, I'm tired of this dude talking to me. Well, how about you just do what Mike would do or Bird would do and destroy the dude and make him shut up, right? Instead of complaining about him talking to you. But yeah, I don't know that LeBron has the mental fortitude to have dealt with Larry Bird in a one-on-one game, nor do I think he could have dealt with Larry Bird's skill set. Now, on the flip side, we know that LeBron is outstanding. He had, in his prime, he had an elite first step. We know that he's one of the best attackers of the rim in NBA history, extremely physically intimidating, but it's not like Larry Bird never dealt with that before. And, he wasn't an elite defender, but he was multiple-time All-NBA defense second team. So, for the most part, he could hold his own. Now, obviously, on those great Celtics teams, he had a lot of help behind him, and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish, and maybe you had the great Dennis Johnson, who was a thief and an outstanding defender on his own, who would, be able to come and bring help with the double team. So great team defense on those Celtic squads, but Larry Bird, he could hold his own. But the thing here is, it's not a function of could Larry Bird hold his own against LeBron. It's a function of, as I've said time and time again, LeBron's offensive toolkit is not varied enough to be an outstanding one-on-one player. Like, you watch Kobe, and this dude can pull out all types of moves on you that you weren't prepared for. LeBron can't do that. all these years in the league. And again, like I mentioned, he's not good at backing guys down, especially guys who are as big as him. He's not good at backing guys down, because even if he does, or even if he gets post position and gets the ball, he doesn't have post moves. He doesn't have great footwork. So LeBron is a guy who needs to get going downhill. He has a slightly better mid-range jumper at this point in his career, but in his prime, his mid-range jumper was not reliable. Just ask Coach Pop and the Spurs. That wasn't reliable. He didn't really have to step back. That wasn't there. So you're saying in a one-on-one game, even if it's against Larry Bird, a guy who he has legitimate physical advantages over, what are his moves? What's he going to go to get a bucket when he needs one? Now, we know Bird can do that, right? But we don't know that LeBron can do that. And again, if Michael Beasley consistently is beating you in one-on-one, then you can't deal with Larry Bird. So anyway, like I said, I was totally shocked that Gilbert Arenas came out and said what he said and sided with Larry Bird on this. Not so shocked that he sided with Michael Jordan, because if he didn't, then we knew he was being flat out disingenuous. But definitely shocked that he sided with Larry Bird on this and said that Larry Bird would beat LeBron one-on-one. So what I want to know from you is, what do you think of Gilbert Arenas' comments? Why do you think that he's suddenly switching up and giving more nuanced and more rational basketball takes? And do you think that Larry Bird could beat LeBron James one-on-one? Can't wait to hear your comments. Leave them in the comments section, and I'll be back with you next episode, and I'm out. Peace.